and jump right into the very first topic. All right. So, that first topic that we have is fertility, women who struggle to have children. All right. So, I have a few stats here, and Latanya is going to be with us to share her personal story with fertility. But some of the stats are about 9% of men and 11% of women of reproductive age um, experience fertility problems in the United States. Okay. Um, Also, in 1/3 of infertile couples, the problem is with men. And 1/3 of infertile couples, the problem can't actually be identified or is with both the man and the woman. Okay, so that leaves 1/3 of a couple's problems with infertility to lie in women. Okay. Um, so we all know that women, as we get older, have fewer eggs. We're born with as many eggs as we can ever have, right? And that can be anywhere between 1 million and 3 million. And by the time we hit puberty, I'm sorry, can't talk today. By the time we hit puberty, we have about 300 to 400,000 eggs, okay? And as we age, our eggs start to become less healthy. Some of them don't mature, and we start to lose a lot of, or they die, and they're reabsorbed into our bodies. We all know that one egg is released and flows through our fallopian tubes to be fertilized potentially every month, right? And it's really a wonder that any woman ever gets pregnant, right? And so fertility can be a struggle for many people. Okay. And we're actually going to spend a segment of this show talking about male fertility because, as you heard some of those statistics, men's infertility is 1/3. It's the cause of why couples can't have children or can't conceive a child in 1/3 of the cases, right? But right now we're going to talk about women's fertility. All right, so we have Latanya with us. Hi, Latanya.
Hi, everybody. I'm happy to be here to share my story. Are there questions or you just want me to
Yeah,
just?
we have questions.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Latanya, from my understanding, you are a mom, right?
I am.
You're a mom, and you and your partner are trying to conceive or have tried to conceive. Is that the case?
Yes, we've gone through fertility treatments to conceive our to conceive three children. Two, one is living, two we lost in early birth.
Okay. Wow. Wow.
hmm
Okay. So, can you just tell us a little bit about your fertility journey? Like, how long were you trying before you realized that you were having a struggle?
Well, if they say medically you have to be trying for a year before they will diagnose you as infertile or having fertility issues.
Right.
And so we were trying for a year, and we weren't getting pregnant. So we got tested, and so the first is they try to do the least invasive thing as possible, which is they did an IUI, which is an intrauterine insemination, where it's just they kind of like time your ovulation
Yeah.
and then try to connect, like, I don't want to, for lack of a better term, like turkey baster. That you come to the office and they inseminate your partner's semen or your semen of choice or whatever, and they kind of do it that way. And so we were able to conceive during that once, and then we got to about 23 weeks, and I went and I went into labor. Well, my water broke,
Okay.
and so we had Kennedy at 23 weeks, which is not a real viable age.
Hmm.
So she lived for about a month, and then we tried again. We ended up spontaneously getting pregnant after her, and we were told it was a fluke when I had my water bag ruptured, and I went into labor with her. There was no diagnosis of as what caused the labor or what caused the early birth. And so then we spontaneously got pregnant after her, and it
Okay.
happened. And the same thing happened again.
So that
Uh,
second time you guys were pregnant, it happened naturally.
right, we got spontaneously pregnant after Kennedy.
Okay.
And the plan was to utilize a stitch that they usually put in at about, I guess, 18 or 20 weeks.
Okay.
A stitch in your lower part of your cervix so that you don't have that opening again. And so I didn't make it to that point again. And so we had another early birth. And so when my mother and I, we were just looking into research about what's going on, and what it was, what we determined, or what doctors didn't want to call it, was I had an incompetent cervix. So
Okay.
once the baby got to a certain weight, my cervix would give away and open. And so we found a doctor that does trans-abdominal cerclages, which, instead of waiting until 18 or 20 weeks, putting in that stitch and potentially having to be on bed rest for the rest of your pregnancy, because it's lower on the cervix, they will go in and put it up at the top of your cervix through surgery. So that prevents, so I could not have, when I did get pregnant, I would not be able to have a vaginal birth
Okay.
because the stitch is at the top of my cervix.
Okay.
And so after we found Dr. Haney at University of Chicago, we were ecstatic. We had the surgery, we had the cerclage put in, and then we also then again struggled getting pregnant. Um, I'm sorry, my little person is trying to come in. Yes.
Having
So
babies.
so after we had problems getting pregnant again after I got the what we call the TAC, trans-abdominal cerclage. We ended up doing IVF. Um, so we did that. And we were successful first round, which was a blessing, because I know some people go through several rounds before they're able to be successful with IVF. It's an endurance of its own, with the hormones and the injections and the doctor visits and the time off and just that. So we were blessed to get pregnant the first time, and so I had a healthy pregnancy, no problems, no issues. I was nervous during that pregnancy a lot, trying to make sure I could trust my body and trust this cerclage that was put in. Um, but I had no issues. We delivered at 38, 39 weeks via C-section. Um, and and he was born healthy. Uh, and everything was good. And I had to find a doctor that was aware of the cerclage also. So I ended up finding an OB who worked under the doctor who does that procedure in order to work with me through my pregnancy, which was great. So that journey was a long journey. That was we started at 30. I was 35. I had my Caden, who is my oldest, who's 6, my healthy son, at 40. So
Okay.
that was a 5-year journey. And then we debated back and forth whether or not we were going to, well, I debated with my husband because I wanted I wanted my son to have a sibling. I think my husband was kind of worn out with the whole
Okay.
process and the journey. He was just like, he didn't want to be on pins and needles again because he had been so many times before. And I was trying to respect his time and process, but I also wanted my child to have a sibling. I didn't want him to be the only child. And so once we came to agreement, we started to look into fertility again, but we got spontaneously pregnant. We got pregnant naturally with Leah. So that was a blessing, and that was another healthy pregnancy as well.
Okay. So you were
Mhm.
able to, so your issue wasn't conceiving or having enough eggs or healthy
It
eggs.
kind of was because I was older in the process.
Okay.
Um, we did not, we got the only times we got pregnant naturally were after a birth because you're more fertile at that time. At least
Okay.
that's what we're told. That's what I was told. So every time I would deliver, I would get pregnant naturally right after that. But
Okay.
then once I had the surgery, it took a while. And because of my age and the egg capacity, we wanted to kind of utilize some assistance and some support with
Okay.
IVF.
Okay. Latanya, I don't know. We hear a little bit of static. We're not sure if it's coming from us or if it's coming from.
It might be me.
Okay.
I'm on
Maybe
my
it's.
cell phone.
Oh, okay. I don't know if it'll help. Probably not. If it's static, it's probably just a reception issue. But maybe just try turning your mic down. Maybe that'll help. I'm not
Okay.
sure. But thank you. I'm listening to your story, and it sounds like a few different things. You were a little older, so you were 35. Do you
That's when
mind
we
sharing your
started.
husband's age?
My husband is 2 years older than me, so he's 37.
Okay. And we're actually going to talk a lot about male fertility later. A lot of people think that male fertility is not an issue when it comes to having children, but men's sperm and the health of their sperm actually does decrease over time. And we have a few stats about that. And then, and 1/3 of the couples that are trying to conceive but have problems, it stems from male infertility, not female infertility. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. That's something to definitely think about, because we tend to just focus on women's fertility, right? And so if you're a woman and you're out here trying to have a baby and you're like, well, what is going on? Why can't I do it? It might not be you. It could actually be your husband, your partner. And your husband was a little bit older too. Men's fertility does not decline as quickly as ours, but their fertility definitely does decline, with age. And after 40, it becomes significantly more challenging for a man to actually impregnate a woman. Like I said, we'll talk about